Hello and welcome to the Team Bus, the Kid Sister podcast, to the Beyond the Slipstream show. I'm Matt Harper. I'm here with my brother Justin. We are going to get into some cycling stuff today, and then I've got a couple of completely non-cycling things to talk about as well. First of all, before you get rolling, Justin, what do you know about this kid Matthew Brennan on Visma Lease bike?
I don't know a ton about him, to be completely honest with you, other than being aware that he's on the team, that he's an American, and that he's very young.
Yeah, he raced on the Tour Down Under earlier this year. Took 8th in the youth classification. That's not saying a whole lot. 15th in points though, and he was 42nd on GC. He's a young guy. He's 19 years old. He raced Omloop, 69th. No result there, but he did two dot two races in the beginning of this month on the 8th and 9th. He did the Lake Tour Day 100 communes, and he did the Grand Prix de la Ville de Lillers Souvenir Bruno Comini, both pretty long one-day races, and he won them both. That's 2 wins. Each one was worth 40 UCI points. This kid's on the come up. He's got some seconds and some thirds. And yeah, he was second on a stage in the Tour Down Under this year. I'm loving this. I'm absolutely loving this.
I mean, you know me. Anytime an American in cycling can,
he's not American. He's English. He's from.
I
from
thought you said he was American.
No.
Well, either
Maybe
way,
I did.
The guy is sounds like a stud, and he's on my favorite team. So
yeah, I'm stoked. All right, go ahead. What do you got?
So I wanted to talk about one of Pog's comments after Strade Bianche the other day. So he kept being bombarded with the, like, how do you feel about being the first world champion to win Strade Bianche? And he corrected them by saying, I don't know why everybody keeps asking me why I'm the first, what it feels like to be the first world champion at Strade Bianche, considering that Lotto won it last year, no? And like, look, man, I don't care what you say about Pogačar. That is the stuff that makes me absolutely love him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely.
he, is such a class act when it comes to that type of stuff. And I just, you know what, man, like, kudos to him for not letting it be just a man's world.
Yep. Well, I think, we have certainly made our feelings on that subject clear from almost the very first episode of this show. We try to talk about all the important women's stuff. Of course, we talked about the Women's Tour de France and how the first American champion of the Women's Tour de France was not a man. What was her name? Marion something or other. So yeah, I love to hear that. I love that anytime you hear it. I also really enjoy seeing like men and women cyclists and the rare chances they get to kind of mix it up with each other. I love that. I like how some of these teams have both a men's and a women's side, and then at certain times of the year the whole team comes together, the men and the women. I think it's just wonderful. There was I believe in the World Championships, they do a combined men and women teams race. And there was like a great one from a couple of years back, the German team. It was like Tony Martin, and there was like a couple of other Germans, and it was like this like really cool team that won it. I love that. Love it.
Yep.
Good on you. Good on you, Tade.
Absolutely. Another thing that I watched this week was the GP Jean-Pierre Moncur, which was like a little one-day race. And, I just picked it up as just watching it just because, I'll watch anything with a bike race. and a guy named Alexi Brunel ends up takes off with like 6K to go, and he's a rider for Total Energies, and he ends up taking the race. And that's not like the really cool thing. The really cool thing I found out about him is like after the race is that he had retired from racing. All right, and he was working for GCN as one of their French correspondents, doing like segments when GCN would do all their little, does all like for their YouTube channel, and when they had the app, they would do different things. And so he was like completely out of racing, and decided that he was going to get back in it, and got himself a contract with Total Energies, and bam, comes back this year and wins, not a huge race or anything, but wins a race, and like couldn't be nicer. And I just thought it was so cool, that this guy had, made his comeback and got himself a win, which, was super cool. I don't know if you've ever heard of Alexi Brunel.
No, did you watch his post race interview? Was he like gushing in the post race? I gotta go back and watch this now.
Yeah,
I just want to see this.
You should definitely go back and watch it. Like I said, it's like,
it's on Max, right?
10, huh?
It's on Max, right?
Yeah,
I thought I saw. Yeah. Okay.
You probably only need to watch like 10K of it, but it was cool. It was a fun race to watch, and then, but it was the stuff that I found out afterwards that I thought was so cool, because he left because of the pressures of racing. That was like he just walked away from it and went to making content, and he gets decides to make a comeback, gets a contract with Total Energies, and boom, gets himself a win. So
I love it. That's
Chapeau
amazing.
To Alexi Brunel on his win at the GP Jean-Pierre Montserrat.
Oui, chapeau, monsieur. Speaking of GCN, you know what show I quietly have come to just love, is just a big bite of comfort food for me, is old low rent low rent Hugh Jackman's
the
weekly
show or whatever it's called.
Yeah, the racing show, the GCN racing show. I love listening to Dan, the man, whatever his name is.
It's a really, really good YouTube watch, on the weekly. It's a good, if you are not into racing and you're not catching, everything, it hits the good points for you big time.
For sure. Yeah. Love that show. I'm pretty much it's Horner, Butterfly Effect, and it's Lantern Rouge. Although Lantern Rouge is more of a listening podcast thing, and then Butterfly Effect and the GCN thing I watch those.
Well, and as great as Lantern Rouge is, it's definitely more of a long form listen, and it's definitely, if you're a nerd for the real intricate details, those are your guys. If you want that quick fix where you can get some really, really good insight, the racing show and Chris Horner's are Beyond the Race, and what's the other one? What is he? He's like
Butterfly Effect.
Those are you got 15-20 minutes typically at the far end of those things, and he will give you some great breakdown on that.
Nice. Another little cycling tidbit that I wanted to mention that kind of dovetails into what we talked about on the main show this week. Everyone that listens to this show knows that we are giant fanboys for our man Geraint Thomas, and he will be at MSR as well. So you could have like Geraint Thomas setting up Pipo Ghana for a sprint finish, so tantalizing. And G has not been racing for the last several weeks. He's been training, so he should be in pretty good form. Pojo is not a huge climb. G's going to be right there in the mix going up that climb. I just another exciting element.
Do you feel like he's like on this like super domestique tour?
Yeah,
where he's
absolutely.
Just like, let's try to help this team win as much as possible.
100%. I think he's just trying to have a good time. having a nice, swan song. He announced it at the beginning of the season. So like all season long, like people are going to be seeing him. He's going to be going to these races. He's going to see folks that he's known for 20 years. It's going to be a love fest for him all year. He wants to stay happy, healthy, uninjured, upright, make it to Tour of Britain for his final race. We already talked about how he got like Rod Ellingsworth or somebody to talk to somebody about the last stage possibly going into Cardiff. So literally like the last, I mean, that's so yeah. And I mean, he is the old guard of that team. You know what I mean? Like the old era, the Team Sky era ends at the end of this season with him. And then you've got, Pipo Ghana becomes kind of the old man of the team. And then you got this squad of these guys who are just starting to like tear it up right now. You got your Sheffields and your Tarlings and your Arensmans, and these guys are on the come up. Like, I'm loving it. I want to MSR, just the Ineos angle of MSR is great. And that's like not even one of the top like 3 or 4 angles on this race. So can't wait for that. You wanna jump into some of this other stuff?
Sure. You got a couple things in here, so
yeah. I want to talk about.
I did your first one. I definitely watched as well.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. All right, good, because I have been actually really, really wanting to talk to somebody about this, and no one has seen it yet.
Yep.
All right, so this is the non-cycling portion of the show here. So my first thing, if you have not had an opportunity to watch specifically the musical performances on Saturday Night Live this past week, well, I should say last week, because today's Sunday. I'm talking about Lady Gaga. She had 2 unreal musical performances on SNL. She also hosted the show. I mean, in my opinion, Gaga is a quadruple threat because she can also act. But so she hosted the show and she was a musical guest. To be honest, the show was not that funny. There was not a whole lot of funny sketches on that show, but
I feel like they don't know. What I'll say about that before you jump into the other thing is I don't feel like they know how to use her right. I think sometimes they get it right with these, megastars, and I feel like they just played a little too much into the cliche of what she is rather than just like let her shine and be, let her just do funny things with her and let her be funny. They kept trying to force the funny in ways of like playing on the stereotypes of like, her fans and shit like that. I don't know. A lot of it to me fell flat.
I'm not sure. I honestly don't even really remember much of the sketches, but I was so enamored of these 2 musical performances. So as I'm given to understand, like depending on who the musical guest is on the show, it can be the musical guest is kind of responsible for the production. So if you come in and you want to do something like
Billie Eilish,
really fancy. Yeah. Like the famous one is Billie Eilish's, upside down walking on the ceiling thing. Like that was amazing. I watched a whole documentary about that, about how they did that, which is basically the same way that they did it with Fred Astaire, like way back in the day. Fred Astaire famously did like one of those things where he was dancing on the ceiling. It was the same thing. They literally make a box that they can rotate around, and then like that person just does a dance that makes it look like
and the camera also rotates so that
yes, the camera stays with it. Exactly. So they made the same exact thing for Billie Eilish on Saturday Night Live, but Billie Eilish paid for that. Okay, so if you're sort of a lesser star or something like that, maybe you're out there on your first tour or whatever, like they're gonna bring in some version of whatever it is that you're touring with, and set you up that way. I mean, like Timmy Chalamet's stuff was as stripped down as it gets. I mean, there was nothing in terms of staging or anything like that. There was no dancers. It was.
I can think back over the years. There's been some I can think Linkin Park did a couple of really big, performances with crazy lights and stuff, and there's definitely been some over the years that stick out in my mind. But go ahead and talk about it because
Right. So all of that to say that Gaga is one of those performers that's got a lot of resources, plenty of means behind her, and she came in and did two absolutely incredible numbers. First of all, part of why I call her a quadruple threat, or even a quintuple threat. I mean, she can sing, she can play an instrument, she can dance, she writes her songs, and she can act. That's like how if she's not an EGOT, I cannot imagine that she won't be one at some point. I think she's a national treasure because she is completely fearless. She crosses genres. She's experimental. Has always pushed the envelope, and not just in terms of the songs, but in terms of the visuals, in terms of what she wears. I mean, she's a style icon. You know what I mean? She just crushes it on every level.
and she's not afraid to be a little self-deprecating about her own, you know, past decisions and, you know,
Yeah.
saying certain, you know, maybe this wasn't the most sensitive thing to do, or, you know, she's very aware of her, you know, presence and what it means to people, and she feels responsibility for it. She's wonderful.
And she's also not like she's not like what I need to tread lightly here. She is not she does not have a classically like model look to her. You know what I mean? She, I think she's stunning. I think she's gorgeous. But she has a unique look to her, and I think that plays very well into for her acting because she's got a look that can be made to look very plain.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? She's not all glamour. She can be the pinnacle of glamour if she wants to be, and yet at the same time, she has a face that works for a myriad of different kinds of things. Anyways,
And
all that to say,
she's a chameleon. She's constantly changing her look.
absolutely. So all that to say that every bit of what we're talking about here play with these two songs. Okay, so of course she's written the two songs. The first one was called Abracadabra. It's it was a very contained performance where they constructed this like almost like a box, like a room on the stage that was sort of made of lights, and I don't know that it actually had walls, but the way that it was lit and everything, it looked like it was like a contained
it made
space.
you feel like a confined space.
And she was in like this sort of like red, sort of bejeweled, sequined outfit that covered her whole like head, and it was crazy, of course. And then they must have had 15 dancers packed in this thing with her. I mean, there was a bunch of dancers in there, and this song, it's just a badass song. It's it's living somewhere between like techno, rock, metal. It's very genre blendy, this tune, and it was just intense. You know what I mean? The dancing was intense. Like it was like in your face, and like it's so cool to look at. She was in the red. All of the other dancers were in these black outfits. They all had like great severe looks on their faces. Every one of them was so dialed in with not just how they were moving their body, but what they were doing with their face. Everything was so intentional and just of a piece with itself.
Yeah.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. The second number, though, just took it to the next level for me. So
the way that it started is what killed me.
incredible.
Right.
So
Like
so it
in the
starts,
hallway. Oh my
Mhm,
god.
mhm. It starts off, and I think it's just on her, and it just pulls back just a little bit, and you see her in the hallway, like in one of the back hallways by the offices or whatever.
Right.
Um, you know,
And
with
the
two
outfit,
dancers.
Yeah, two dancers.
Yeah.
And the outfit is just
Incredible
like,
outfits, like the most like couture, like high end fashion outfits you've ever seen in your life.
but the way that
Just
like the
wild.
way that they were moving though, like
Yes.
Like I don't even know how to describe it, but it was like because of the way that they were like moving with the thing, like with the dance, like what the dance was, it worked with the fucking dresses too. Like it was
Yes,
fucking
yes. It
crazy.
was like cartoonish. It was like
Yes.
they looked like drawn characters in these outfits, you know. And again with the facial expressions, like everything about it, like it was these performances were so perfectly choreographed. Like every single bit of every single one of these performances was perfectly choreographed. So they're back in the hallways. They start singing. Of course, they got some kind of cameraman with a with a movable rig happening and one of those, bounce things or whatever, where they're not even really holding the camera. They're just like kind of holding the thing or whatever. Which I thought we talked about this with the Kendrick Lamar, like Super Bowl performance. Like you're starting to see these like all over the place, like these dudes with these like really, really loose, like movable camera rigs. So she's in front of this guy with one of those things and they start moving down the hallway. And at one point, I don't know if you noticed, but like, it was maybe like where some of the casts like dressing rooms are or something. It was a tight little hallway. The hallway right there is like it's only like 5 feet wide or something like that. And they're like creeping through there, and then they go through like a thing with like scaffolding or something like that. And then at one point they stop and they're doing this dance in the hallway, and the camera angle changes, and you are seeing the like security camera feed of them. You remember that part?
Yes.
So, and the three of them
Also insane because
right.
how do you come up with that?
Mhm.
Like
The idea
whose
itself
thought is
crazy.
that? And then
Right,
the
the idea is
execution of it
crazy.
was really good too.
Right, because like now they're like having to somehow like they're gonna. I mean, when you think about like the behind the scenes stuff, it's like somehow they had to like go and find their security camera footage, which is probably on its own like whole separate system for the whole building. I mean, I guess
Tie it in.
they could have mimicked
Right.
it. Maybe it wasn't an actual security cam. Maybe they just put like some kind of filter on their regular camera, but it sure seemed authentic. And they're still doing the choreographed dance and everything. You still hear everything perfectly. And speaking of like what you're hearing a band. You know what I'm saying? Like you're hearing a very full, broad spectrum performance happening. But what you're seeing is her and her two backup dancers, her singing and them dancing, and the three of them dancing and working their way through the backstage area. So it cuts away from that shot, from the security cam shot, and it's back on them, and you see them literally come out from the back through the audience and walk up onto the stage, right? And so now once again we've got this like very enclosed space on the stage, and they got people packed in there as well, but this time they've got the band. So the way it's set up is like there's sort of the two guitarists are on either side in the front. And these guys, of course, everybody's wearing amazing outfits. So it's like everyone's dressed in like these cool looking suits and stuff. At least I think the guitarist and like the bass player and the keyboardist are all in like these like cool looking suits. Each one of them's like a different like kind of pastel color, right? And this song, also I should have mentioned, the song is called Killa, and this is a straight up like punk rock song, right? That they're doing. The two guitarists are complete badasses. They look cool. They play cool, like the way they're playing the solo in, and they're shredding on these guitars. They look so badass. And then there's two dancers, backup singer dancers that are smashed back in there. They're wearing the same outfits that our backup dancers were wearing, if you noticed. And then my favorite part of it, the drummer, he's in the back corner, straight like punk rock. He's got no shirt on, like all these crazy costumes. And then suddenly they go back to the drummer. My man's back there with like no shirt on. He's got all these tats. He's like hammering away at it, like straight up punk rock. And Gaga walks back there, turns her back to the camera. She faces the drummer, and there's a couple of sticks waiting there for her. She picks up these sticks, and at the crescendo part of the song, she starts in on the cymbals. So it's like he's crushing the cymbals on one side, she's crushing the cymbals on the other side, and it's just like super intense. She finishes the part, drops the drumsticks, wheels around to the camera, and just like lets out a primal scream, like "Wah!" I mean, unreal. The intensity level it's insane. I gotta say, in my opinion, as I'm watching it for the first time, I wish I would have been watching it live. I wasn't. I actually woke up the next morning. I was scrolling Reddit, and my whole Reddit feed is just like, oh my God, Gaga's performance on SNL last night. So I immediately stopped and watched it. So wish I would have been seeing it live. I wasn't. But as I'm watching it, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this is top 10 musical performances of all time. This has to be. Definitely the second one, but really, she's definitely in the conversation for like single best, like guest musical guest performance all time.
It was
so good.
It was, and I think it is a cool thing that SNL does, when they allow these artists to really like, go crazy with a performance. I'm not like a huge fan, but Tate McRae did that like wild thing with the chairs the week before. Did you see that one?
Yeah. That was cool. It's a cool place. I think artists love to go there because you're challenged to be inventive. I mean, that's like one of the things that the people on the Reddit thread were talking about is like, this woman has raised the bar so high now that like artists are going to be coming on there. Like how the fuck can I top that? Like,
oh dude, that's like, when you watch the Billie Eilish thing, you're like, come on, dude. Like, how do you how do you top some shit like that by doing
nuts.
what Gaga did? You know what I mean? And I don't know that she can top it, but man, it's like, what a fun notion to be able to try to top it.
Yeah. It's just such a great showcase. I mean, that show is just like such a gift. I listened to that like David Spade, Dana Carvey podcast, the Fly on the Wall, and they were talking about how like it cost something like $6 million an episode to make SNL or something like that, and they were like, that budget's way too high. They said basically like the only reason that the budget for SNL is so high is because Lorne is still there, and they're like guarantee as soon as Lorne retires, they're going to slash that budget by like 40%. So you're like, okay, time to make this show happen for $3 million. Like 6 is ridiculous.
So where do you think the excess money goes into? Like the set pieces and what they do each week. You think? I mean, like, I don't know, man. Like, how do you?
Well, I mean, a lot of it's the salary for the guests because they do get paid like a salary. I think. No. Actually, no. The guests don't. I think. What did they say? I think it's been like for years. The guests make like a flat like $5,000. No, what did they say? What did they say? All that money went to? I can't remember, but like. To me, I don't know. That could be a good thing or a bad thing because the show's not going anywhere. Like it's the best rated show on television. Basically, it's the best rated like comedy like show on television, on broadcast TV. Basically, so the show's not going anywhere, thankfully. But like, if the writers are pushed to work within a much tighter financial constraint, it could yield good things. They could go back to their roots or something like that. Who knows? Because the writing on that show is like hit or miss. I think the performers are great. I think they got a great cast right now. But like, yeah, the writing sometimes.
I feel like the Gaga episode fell flat for me outside of the musical performances. Widely because and again, I think sometimes did you ever go back and watch any of the Drake episodes?
No, I remember looking them up. We were talking about that, but I don't think for whatever reason I got sidetracked. I never watched.
All right, well, you need to do that. Well, then maybe we end up talking about that more. But I think there are times when they really get it right with with the host. I think there are times when they just it's the whole way through. And I think too that sometimes that's the host. But sometimes the writers are better with the writing the comedy for particular people on that show. I think sometimes
for sure
they don't know quite how to use them because every actor's a little different in that sense. And obviously I think your theater people tend to have a lot more success on SNL.
Yeah. Well, let's put a pin in it because we're about out of time for this episode. But thanks so much for joining us here on the Team Bus, as always. And look forward to our big episode coming this weekend for the first monument of the year, Milan San Remo, both the men's and the women's. And if you have a chance, go watch Danny Carey's Numa video on YouTube in preparation for this show. You will not regret it. That's all. We'll catch you next week. Ale.
The Team Bus is part of the Beyond the Slipstream family and is produced by Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please like, subscribe, leave a review, and tell your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Ale!